Depression and I have been companions, off and on, for a long time. When I was a teenager, I felt a little off from the rest of the crowd. A lot of teenagers feel badly about themselves, but for a teenager who's really depressed, like I was, I saw things as being much worse.
My hips are too big.
Mine are ginormously mammothized.
Everyone is staring at this pimple on my nose.
I wish I didn't have a face.
I'll never get a boyfriend.
I'll always be alone from everyone and everything. No boyfriend, no friends, nothing. I'm destined to be an invisible outcast. Why can't I just fit in? Mirror, mirror. Oh, what's the point? There is no point. These overly negative feelings followed me through college.
Rah! Rah!
There are two main types of depressive disorders: major depressive disorder and persistent depressive disorder. We'll be focusing on major depression in this video. Major depression is characterized by depressed mood, loss of interest in activities, and other factors such as weight loss or gain, insomnia, diminished self-esteem, suicidal thoughts, indecisiveness, and concentration problems. In youngsters, depression can vary in symptoms across different stages of development. An infant might express depression by being unresponsive, and a teenager might express it by feeling worthless. So, what are the factors contributing to the development of depression in young people? A distinction between biological and environmental factors can be made. A patient's identical twin is more likely to have depression than a patient's non-identical twin, proving that genes play a role in depression. Around 40 to 50% of the cause of major depression is genetics. If a person has a parent or sibling with major depression, his or her chances of getting major depression is 2 to 3 times higher than the average person. Multiple genes are involved in depression, but we don't know how many yet. In addition to genetic factors, neurodevelopment also affects the depression risk during childhood and adolescence. The prefrontal cortex is a crucial area for top-down control on feelings, behaviors, and emotional regulation. Unfortunately, prefrontal areas are not fully developed until age 20, so adolescents' self-regulatory system is still immature. Due to changes in the limbic area, teenagers are more likely to engage in sensation-seeking activities, more likely to be aroused, and more sensitive to social cues. These changes occurring before the full maturation of the frontal lobes put the adolescent in a window of vulnerability for mood dysregulation. Biological factors are just part of the explanation. Personal and social factors are also important. Children need to master many developmental challenges, for example, physiological regulation, emotional regulation, the development of secure attachments, and a relationship to themselves. Whether they can successfully master these challenges depends on the quality of the relationship with their caregivers. For example, when a baby cries, a normal mother will soothe her, but a mother with depression may be withdrawn and unavailable, making the baby more distressed and impairing her emotional regulation. Outside of the family, young people face additional challenges. A major issue is peer group integration. Social rejection and bullying are risk factors for the onset of depression. Another problem may come from poor school performance, leading children and adolescents to a lack of self-esteem. Adolescents may have more conflicts with their parents because of their increased need of independence. Hormonal changes experienced during puberty lead to the development of sexual desires. This raises the challenge of incorporating sexuality in the idea of self. Adolescents usually build their first romantic relationships and may have to cope with relationship loss.
Candace was one of those very special children. She was a child that everybody loved.
I'd always put on music while I was getting ready for bed, and she used to knock on my wall because her room's right over there, and she'd knock on the wall and tell me to be quiet, and just little things like that.
She would get to school and she would basically freeze and just not be able to give the information that she knew. When I went to the pediatrician, he said if you're continuing to be concerned, then go to a child psychiatrist. When I took her to the psychiatrist, he immediately placed her on a sample packet of Zoloft from his office. And I was not happy about placing her on medication. However, while we were sitting there, I read a pamphlet about Zoloft, and it said, oh, your child will be happy and everything will be all better, and there was not one risk listed in this pamphlet. About 6 months later, when she was getting ready to start 7th grade, he explained to me, well, she's going to be more nervous and more anxious, and I really think we need to double it. I didn't want to, and he said, what are you worried about? Kids take 100 to 200 milligrams a day without any problem at all. There's no risk. My husband and daughter were both home the day that she died. I'd gone out to have lunch with a friend, but when I left, Candace was curled up in her father's arms and they were laughing, watching Animal Planet. I had no way of knowing that was the last time I'd see her alive. But I went up to her room and I opened the door and she was hanging from the valance of her bed with her knees drawn up. And the first thing I said to my husband is, they've killed her.
Depression can be treated with psychotherapy and medication. Antidepressants have been used increasingly as first-line treatment for depression in children. In 2002, approximately 1.4 million young people below the age of 18 in the US used antidepressants. The safety of prescribing antidepressants to children and adolescents has raised more and more concern. Many studies about newer antidepressants received funding from pharmaceutical companies, exaggerating the benefits and downplaying their side effects. Therefore, antidepressants cannot be confidently recommended for childhood depression. What's more concerning, the use of antidepressants in children increases the probability of suicide ideation and attempts. In adolescents, psychotherapy is more effective and safer, and medication should be limited to cases of severe depression. Adolescents using antidepressants could stigmatize themselves and develop a persistent negative self-concept. They associate themselves with the mental illness. This is very likely in adolescents, who frequently compare themselves with their peers. Just as in children, antidepressants use increases the risk of suicide in adolescents. On the other hand, untreated depression may also put the individual at risk for suicidal behaviors. Other consequences are bad school performance and social isolation. Treatment with antidepressants may also prevent the use of drugs as self-medication, since adolescents are at risk for dangerous sensation-seeking behaviors and addiction. What do you think about the use of antidepressants in young people? Leave your comments down below.